Yesterday, we received some heartbreaking news. Belal Muhammad is out of his fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov at UFC 310 due to a bone infection in his foot, and it's 24 hours later. I thought we might have a resolution by now. I thought we might have a new main event for UFC 310. There was some talk yesterday of Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. We're going to discuss that later in the video, but we're going to break it all down in this video. I'm going to give my thoughts on the pullout of Belal. We're going to discuss a potential main event, but also Ian Machado Garry threw his hat in the ring to step in and fight Shavkat Rakhmonov on short notice. But now today, the UFC just announced Ian Machado Garry versus Joaquin Buckley headlining UFC Tampa Bay later this year. The last fight card of the year. I believe it's a week after UFC 310, so now he's kind of off the board, but we're going to break down that fight in this video as well as who's going to be the main event. I'm going to give my pick for who I believe will ultimately be the main event of UFC 310. But let's jump right into it. So here's the card on Tapology. This poster breaks my heart. I got to be honest, guys. Belal versus Shavkat was one of my most anticipated fights. Right now, in terms of fights that are announced, Belal versus Shavkat was #1 for me. And it's devastating, guys. This was such a great matchup. Shavkat, undefeated, nothing but finishes, taking on Belal Muhammad, who went out there in July and absolutely dominated Leon Edwards, picked him up, dumped him on his bald spot, back shots dead. And then he was like, you know what? Give me the boogeyman of the division. Let me turn around in 4 months and fight the boogeyman of the division, Shavkat Rakhmonov. I want to take his L. And now it's off. It's devastating. It's heartbreaking. I don't know about anyone else. I know there's a lot of Belal Muhammad haters out there. This was a real punch to the gut. It really was. I haven't felt this way about a main event cancellation in a while. Truly, I haven't. Because I was really looking forward to this fight. But anyway, Belal Muhammad, this is what he posted. Caught a bone infection in my foot and had to put a PICC line in my arm for IV antibiotics the next 6 weeks with no physical activity. Listen, people are discussing this because if you look at the other pictures, he's got a bone infection in his foot here. And if you go forward a little bit more, it looks really, really nasty here. I don't even want to look at it anymore. And he's showing he's getting, antibiotics. But yeah, the foot looks horrible. He has an infection in his foot. I already see people, including Conor McGregor, shitting on Belal Muhammad. Oh, he pulled out with a toe injury. This is nowhere near the same. And I know people are going to say, Joe, you're defending Belal Muhammad. No, I'm defending the facts. He has a bone infection in his foot. He has to take antibiotics. He's not able to train. So you want him to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov with no training camp, essentially. I mean, this isn't just a broken pinky toe. And by the way, while we all I don't even say we all laughed. Conor McGregor didn't even get that much criticism for pulling out with a broken pinky toe. He got some. But I even said I thought that was a smart move by Conor McGregor, especially if he's planning on fighting out his UFC contract. He doesn't want to go out there and look like a total scrub. So this is not the same. It's not a broken pinky toe. It is a bone infection. This is a bone infection. Look how serious this is. And on antibiotics for 6 weeks, as he says here, it's just not possible. We talk about guys coming in with staph infections. Why would we want him to show up and not be 100%, and not give us the fight that we truly deserve? And what's crazy to me is people are already hating on him, already talking crap about the injury or the infection, already saying, yeah, pull out merchant. And I know some of that is a little bit satirical, but people really might try to push this narrative in the future. Let's break this down. He fought at the end of July. I believe it was like July 27th, okay? So you had all August, all September, all October, all November, and then he's fighting the first week of December. So 4-month turnaround from winning a world championship. If he doesn't fight for another 2 months, that's fine. I have no problem with that. I think there is a chance it could get moved. There's a Saudi Arabia event in early 2025. Maybe it does get moved. But in that scenario, they either have to pull a main event kind of out of their ass, or I don't think a lot of fans are going to be happy about this. It'll be Alessandro Pantoja versus Kaya Sakura as the main event. So that'll be a little bit devastating. So one person who did throw their name in the hat was Ian Machado Garry. He posted this. This is a clip from the post-fight press conference after his last win against MVP. Listen to what Ian Machado Garry had to say. Listen to this.
There's some big names. There's some cool matchups. There's Shavkat, 18-0, undefeated. I'd love to get my hands on him. I've trained with him. I have nothing but respect for the guy, but I want to be the first guy to take his own. I know I can do it. That fight excites me so much. I've nothing but respect for the dude. It's purely out of, I don't want anyone else to beat him before me. He's 18-0, I'm 15-0. Let's go out there and put on a show, and let's see who's really better.
How can you not respect that? People call me, how can you like Ian Garry? How can you not like this? There's people ducking fights left and right. You will always notice a trend. People say, Joe, you're biased for this guy, biased for that. You will always see a trend. I want to be a fan of the guys who are willing to take the toughest test. Dricus du Plessis calling out Khamzat Chimaev. Respect it. Belal Muhammad wanting Shavkat Rakhmonov. Ian Machado Garry wanting Shavkat Rakhmonov. The list goes on and on. That is the type of fighter that I like, okay? It has nothing to do with being biased. It has to do with wanting to see the best versus the best. And he also pushed for it on social media. I'm right here. Tagged Shavkat Rakhmonov, always on weight. And I think, and then after that, soon after that, you know, people were thinking maybe Garry could step in. Soon after that, the UFC announces Ian Machado Garry versus Joaquin Buckley. Now, I know people are going to call me a bit of a hater here, and we're going to come back to this in a second. I don't need to have this on the screen the whole time. I know people are going to call me a bit of a hater. I love this fight, but low-key hate this fight as well. Because Joaquin Buckley and Ian Machado Garry are two up-and-coming guys in the welterweight division. They are guys who are about 1 to 2 fights away from a potential title shot, and they're on these kind of rises and win streaks within the division, and instead of fighting the top of the division, now they're fighting each other and going to kill off each other. Why? Why? I mean, right here it says Gary's ranked number 7, Buckley's ranked number 9. Buckley went out there and starched Wonderboy Thompson in his last fight. Ian Machado Garry went out there and beat MVP in his last fight. Both these guys deserve a shot up the rankings. They should be fighting the Colby Covingtons of the world, the Kamaru Usmans of the world, the Leon Edwards of the world. But instead now they're fighting each other. Again, I love this matchup. I think it's a very interesting matchup. But why aren't they getting a step up the rankings? That makes absolutely no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And I'll tell you this right now. Who remembers back in like March, April of this year, which was forever ago at this point, and Colby Covington was putting out those videos. Oh, you know, talking about Gary's wife and, you know, I have these requests and these stipulations. And everyone was like, oh, haha, Colby's so funny. And I said, look, and the videos are still up. You can go check them out. I said, look, Colby Covington, this is his elaborate way to duck Ian Machado Garry. He will not fight him. I said he will not fight him. It will not happen. People were talking, oh, it's going to happen in June, Joey. And I was like, no, Colby is scared of Garry. He doesn't want to fight Garry. He's terrified of Garry. He's terrified of losing to Garry. And people said to me over again and over again, you just don't like Colby because of his political beliefs. When really it had nothing to do with that. I was just like, look, I don't think it's going to happen. And then there was rumors of Ian Machado Garry versus Colby Covington. These rumors were swirling for a while in December. Okay, I forgot to say that at the end. There was rumors of Ian Machado Garry versus Colby in December. And these rumors were swirling for a bit, and then Garry started coming out and putting pressure on Colby. Putting out these videos. Sign the contract, Colby. Sign the contract, Colby. He put out a video of his son. Do a Colby Covington impression, and his son would run away. Colby hasn't fought since December of last year. UFC 196. Really, he didn't even fight there because he just showed up and shit the bed against Leon Edwards and didn't even try to fight. And now he's not fighting in December against Ian Garry. People were asking me, do you think it's going to happen? Do you think we're going to get Gary Covington finally in December? And I said, absolutely not. Colby will never take this fight. This is in Tampa Bay. Colby lives in Florida. He trains in Florida. This was in his own backyard. There was no doubt in my mind. Don't reference Dana White. Dana White is a habitual liar, okay? He habitually lies to protect certain fighters and lies to shit on other fighters. Don't say, oh, Dana said Colby never turned down any fights. Do you guys honestly believe that? The people who are going to say that. Do you guys honestly believe that? The UFC wanted to make Ian Machado Garry versus Colby Covington twice this year. But Colby was too busy shitting his britches like they're going out of style. So he said, no. So let me break this down for you real quick. Colby Covington needs to be cut from the UFC. Colby Covington, bare minimum, needs to be removed from the rankings. This dude doesn't have a single win against someone currently in the UFC welterweight rankings. His last win was in 2022 against Jorge Masvidal. I don't think he has a win against a fighter who's currently on the UFC roster outside of Rafael Dos Anjos. Think about how insane that is. How is he still ranked in the top 5? It's an embarrassment. These guys need to be plucked from the rankings. A guy like Garry and a guy like Buckley, who were putting in work and fighting often, they need to move up the rankings when you have a guy like Colby who's turning down fights and ducking everyone. So Colby's a complete disgrace, but that's a topic for another video. Let's break down this fight real quick. I'll put it back up on the screen. Ian Machado Garry, Joaquin Buckley, great fight. Both are on win streaks. Quick prediction, I think Ian Machado Garry has this fight. I think Garry's footwork and his striking are going to cause big problems for Joaquin Buckley. Buckley has big power. He has decent wrestling. But I broke this down going into an MVP fight. Ian Machado Garry was a grappler prior to coming in the UFC and started really working on his striking and his kickboxing. People didn't want to hear that. I used to say that about Ilia Topuria as well. Joe Rogan was like, oh, Ilia Topuria is going into Bryce's world. And I'm like, what is going on here? Garry has very good grappling. I told you guys Garry would out-grapple MVP easily. Almost rear naked choked him in the first round. Buckley has to get a KO in this fight if he wants to win this fight. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Unless somehow he exposes Garry's takedown defense, I don't think he will. His entries into his wrestling aren't that great. He is pretty strong. But think about it. Wonderboy was kind of touching him up before he got KO'd. Buckley had some moments, don't get me wrong, but I don't think Garry's going to be as worried of the takedowns. And also, Garry has really good footwork and high fight IQ as well. So I think Garry wins this fight. I think he gets it done with his footwork and his kickboxing. And I think he touches Buckley up. Maybe winning a decision. We'll break it down when we get closer. It's right around the corner. It's literally a month away. That's what's insane. But shout out to Garry. Shout out to Garry. I mean, this guy is fighting people behind him multiple times in a row, not getting a jump up the rankings. Meanwhile, guys are squatting on their rank. And he's going out there fighting a dangerous guy like MVP, a dangerous guy like Joaquin Buckley, and even fought a dangerous guy in Jeff Neal, who I think is criminally underrated. Criminally underrated. And then on top of that, what I just showed you, he wanted to step in and fight Shavkat Rakhmonov at UFC 310. Now, obviously, that's not happening, but I love this fight, but I hate the fight. Because Buckley should be getting like a Kamaru Usman or a Colby Covington. Ian Machado Garry should be getting like a Kamaru Usman or a Colby Covington or a Leon Edwards. I want to see Garry versus Leon Edwards in December. Leon Edwards was saying he wanted to return before the end of the year. I would have liked to see him fight Garry. That would have been a great fight. Now, moving on. Let's move on, okay? We had reports yesterday that Alex Pereira was offered a short notice title fight with Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 310. Now, this was being reported by multiple outlets, but it was like according to sources. So you have to take them with a slight grain of salt, but there's no doubt in my mind there were some talks behind the scenes, okay? You have this report here, and then they changed the headline of this report. MMA Media originally posted that Pereira was offered a fight with Magomed Ankalaev, okay? That was the original report from MMA Mania. Well, now you had, or yesterday, you also, as these reports were swirling around, apparently Pereira had commented on an Instagram post with the telephone emoji. Meanwhile, you had Magomed Ankalaev posting this, okay? You had the phone emoji with the trophy. I spoke with my manager. If the UFC needs me for December 7th, I'm all in. This was actually today. Let's go. And then also today, I'm going to beat Alex and I will give him an immediate rematch as he deserves. I will stop him back-to-back Chama, which the Chama at the end is kind of funny. So it seemed as if maybe that was going to be the new main event for UFC 310. Well, we also have a report. Well, that's not it. This is another report or another, quote. Magomed Ankalaev's coach says he's ready and willing to fight Alex Pereira at 310, but they doubt Alex will take the fight. This is all talk. Nothing has been officially offered. We are ready to perform December 7th. Magomed has no visa issues. So Magomed Ankalaev desperately wanted to fight at 310. But now you have this report earlier today. Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev, not an option for new UFC 310 main event. So it appears, based on the reports, that either the UFC didn't want to make this fight or Alex Pereira turned this fight down. Now, let's just say hypothetically, Alex Pereira turned this fight down. I think that's a decent probability. I think there's going to be a lot of people saying, I don't know how many people, because certain people are very biased for certain fighters, they're going to say, yeah, Alex Pereira ducked Magomed Ankalaev. I don't subscribe to that theory of thought. I really don't. I wish I could say I did, because I'm disgusted. I have a feeling Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev will never happen, ever. I'm not ready to die on that hill, and I'm praying that I'm wrong. But look, how can you expect Pereira to save every event? Because the UFC lacks planning. I don't blame Alex Pereira nor Magomed Ankalaev. In this case, it looks like it's Alex Pereira or the UFC for not wanting. I don't blame Alex Pereira for not wanting to fight Magomed Ankalaev on a short camp, especially when he's been as active as he is this year. I wouldn't blame Magomed Ankalaev if he didn't feel like fighting Alex Pereira on a short camp. But if the roles were reversed, and I just want to point this out, this massive hypocrisy. If Magomed Ankalaev said, I'm a little banged up for my fight, that's not enough time, he would get crucified. Absolutely crucified. And there's going to be some fans who crucify Alex Pereira if it comes out he turned down the fight. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be some fans that do that. But I don't blame Alex Pereira if he didn't want to take the fight. I don't blame Magomed Ankalaev if he didn't want to take the fight. In a way, I almost didn't want it to happen. I would have been excited. I would have been pumped for it. But at the same time, it would have been a massive asterisk next to it. If it would have happened, it would have been, oh, well, Pereira took it on 4 weeks' notice. You know, it's just, and there would have been a guaranteed immediate rematch. I just want to see the best guys fight the best on full camps, going into those camps uninjured. And I know that's not always, but in this case, they both just fought. Pereira was in a war against Khalil Roundtree, the number 8 ranked guy. Okay, Magomed Ankalaev beat up Rockets. You never know. You can get your foot can get beat up a little bit from throwing kicks. You never know what kind of lingering injuries you have going into a fight to begin with. So as much as I kind of want this fight to be 310's main event, and I still think there's a chance, maybe it comes together. Maybe there was talks of Pereira versus Yuri to headline UFC 303, and the initial talks were, oh, Pereira's not going to do it. He's banged up. He's in Australia. If the UFC really desperately needs a main event, which they do, they might start upping those paychecks for Pereira and say, you know what, Pereira, we need you to save another event, and we're giving you Magomed Ankalaev. We'll give you a rematch if you lose. And I think Pereira, enough money, could entice him to step in and fight Ankalaev, because we know Ankalaev's ready. We know Ankalaev will jump at the chance, because if he doesn't, he's going to get crucified, and he's never going to get a title fight ever. Ever. The UFC will shit on him. Dana will shit on him. He'll never get a title fight, at least not as long as Alex Pereira's around. I don't think this is going to be the main event, unfortunately, but kind of fortunately again, because of the reasons I explained, the asterisk next to it. So if that's the case, what will be the main event? And that's a very good question, because I think the best solution for the main event, I'm going to go to the rankings here, is I think the best solution for the main event is to keep Shavkat Rakhmonov on the card and fight another welterweight. So who's available? Belal Muhammad, the champion's not available. Leon Edwards is available, but you think Leon Edwards is going to want to take that fight coming off a loss? Where Belal Muhammad ragdolled him and dumped him on his bald spot and gave him back shots dead? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. I don't think he's man enough like Ian Machado Garry. That leaves number 2, Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman looks to be the guy that could step in and fight Shavkat Rakhmonov. Jack Della, I don't know if he's even healthy. He had that injury. He said he wouldn't be returning till early next year. It looks like he's kind of earmarked for Perth in February. So I don't think it's going to be Jack Della. Sean Brady, could it be Sean Brady? I don't know if Shavkat Rakhmonov, I almost said Shavkat there. I don't know if Shavkat versus Sean Brady is that main event to help save pay-per-view sales and ticket sales for the UFC. Because we know they're all about profit nowadays. So, in my opinion, if Shavkat does stay in the main event, there's 2 options. There's 2 options. One is Kamaru Usman. So, Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Kamaru Usman. And then, the other option, it's not Leon Edwards. It's Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Colby Covington. I don't think Colby Covington would dare step to those waters. I think he's terrified of Shavkat. I don't think he wants any part of fighting Shavkat. But if there's another undeserved title shot, he might be potentially down. Now, I think he gets absolutely destroyed by Shavkat Rakhmonov. But, this might be his last chance. I mean, I guess he already been interim champion before. But, yeah, that's the only other guy that could step in. Outside of that, I don't know what they do. I don't think Dricus versus Sean Strickland could happen. That's the only way Sean Strickland saves his title shot from Khamzat Chimaev. But if you watch the video I did yesterday, I talked about Dricus. He's looking a little chunky right now. I don't think he's going to take that fight on short notice, and I don't think he's in the proper, shape to take that fight on short notice. Islam Makhachev versus Arman is going to happen in January at UFC 311. That's already being reported, so he's kind of out of the question. Merab's not fighting this year. Topuria just fought. So who do you have left? John Jones is fighting in 2 weeks. So there's really no other options other than some weird wild card fight. Are they going to throw Max Holloway back in there after getting brutally chinned and put him against a Dustin Poirier for a BMF title fight? That would be an option. But if I had to guess right now, gun to my head, I think your new main event of UFC 310 will be Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Kamaru Usman for the interim welterweight title. And I like that fight, but I hate that fight because Kamaru Usman's on a 3-fight losing streak. I don't think it's the worst 3-fight losing streak ever. Kind of a fluky head kick KO loss to Leon Edwards. When he fought him in the trilogy, it was a close fight, and Leon Edwards was cheating nonstop. And then he lost to Khamzat Chimaev on short notice. We know Khamzat Chimaev may be the best middleweight in the world, so there's no real shame in that. And he looked decent in that fight. So I don't love the fact that it's an interim title, and I don't love the fact that Kamaru Usman's getting a title shot, but the UFC's desperate times call for desperate measures. So if I had to pick right now, gun to my head, Your new main event of UFC 310 is Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Kamaru Usman for an interim welterweight title. I will let you guys know as more kind of facts reveal themselves, but even I went on Kamaru Usman's Instagram, right? And I clicked on his story here. Check this out. You think this is coincidence? That you can't see it, but this was 8 hours ago. This was 8 hours ago. This was 8 hours ago. So this was all 8 hours ago. It looks like he's in training camp right now, preparing for a fight. So I do believe your new main event of UFC 310 will be Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Kamaru Usman. Unless they pull out a wild card or unless they somehow make Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. I don't believe Pereira is going to want to do that. Not because he's scared of Ankalaev, but because he has lingering injuries, because he's been so active this year. And also, I don't think the UFC is too keen on that. Why do they want to set Pereira up for failure unless they absolutely have to because they have nothing else, so they're going to pay him a boatload of money to go out there and risk his title against Ankalaev? I don't think the UFC wants to do that. I don't think Pereira wants to do that. So I think ultimately what they will land on is the Shavkat Usman fight for the interim welterweight title, which I won't love. If that's announced, I could see it being announced in the next 48 hours. I will do an updated video reaction to that. But let me know what you guys think of all this down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.